Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka nabina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And good morning, Instagram fam, friends and followers of as-Saafiy, and welcome to another episode of Revert Reflections. And over the past few days, we have been talking about some of the signs of Allah's existence, some of the signs that He is the creator and caretaker of this entire universe and everything within it. And obviously His right to be worshipped by default. And one of the signs I like to mention today, or the sign I like to mention today, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided every creature to instinctively do that which is personally advantageous and life-preserving. Every creature, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided them, programmed them to do certain things, to serve certain purposes, to fulfill certain functions that are in their own best interest as well as in the best interest of creation. And these tendencies that these creatures have, whether they are human or non-human creatures, these tendencies are automatic and not learned. In other words, He, subhanahu wa ta'ala, has given them instincts that could not have come from anyone but Him. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means when He says at the beginning of Surah Al-A'la, the 87th chapter of the Quran, verses 1 through 3, He says, سَبِّحِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى الَّذِي خَلَقَ فَسَوَّى وَالَّذِي قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى. He says, exalt the name of your Lord, the Most High, who created all things and proportioned them, who decreed their lifespans, their functions and purposes, and guided them to fulfill their purposes and perform their functions. He guided them, hada, guided them to fulfill their purposes and perform their necessary functions. So, for example, brothers and sisters, we know about ourselves that innately, automatically, without thinking about it, we automatically have the instinct, we instinctively protect ourselves when we're afraid. We instinctively eat when we're hungry. And some people will argue that these instincts, as we call them, were learned from other members of the species. That basically, when we came on the scene, there were other humans and they ate when they were hungry and they protected themselves when they were afraid. And so we learned that behavior from them. This isn't instinctive. This is something we learned. It's not a program from Allah. It's not something He made us predisposed to do, but it's something that we basically learned over time living in the world. The problem with that is, given these examples that I gave you, we have to ask ourselves, who taught the first one? Who taught the first ant to do what ants do? The first humans to do what humans do instinctively. Somebody had to program us and teach us in a very subliminal and clandestine way. Somebody had to program us to be like this and to respond in this way. And also there are examples, brothers and sisters, of complex behavior performed by animals and plants and insects that could not be taught. It couldn't be learned. It couldn't be learned from others because there was no opportunity. And we're going to see an example of that, inshallah ta'ala, tomorrow. I'm going to give you one example out of many that we could give of predisposed behaviors and complex behavior that is purely instinctive. It's not something that these plants or these animals or these other beings could have learned from other members of their species because there was no opportunity for them to learn it. And so therefore it's a sign, it's an indication that there is someone who programmed you and me and programmed the creatures around us to behave and to function in certain ways. And that one is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a clear sign that He exists. More on this, brothers and sisters, in the coming days. Until then, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless your houses, to bless your spouses, to bless your families and your children, to bless your sources of livelihood and income. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you and make you blessed wherever you may be. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shower you with His blessings and to surround you with His protection. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.